ENPH beat on guidance and raised 151 versus $1.24. Sales came in at 724, beating the 706.5 estimate. More importantly is what's going forward, 740 to 700 million versus the 690 estimate for first quarter 2023. That beat has the stock at 242 at the time of recording this, and this is obviously before the conference call. Now, we don't know how the conference call is going to go, but considering they raised guidance, you would think it's going to go fairly well. If we take a look at the low and then the anchored VWAP on where you're sitting, you're right at that 235, and you've had a lot of trouble with this area, unable to get above it except for this evening. So for tomorrow, I would just watch the other side of this and see if this little resistance point becomes support. We can see how it acts after hours as well. One thing I like to do is just watch that first 15-minute bar after hours and then see how we act on it. Here you can see how we are breaking that anchored VWAP. You want to see if you can make the higher high or if it was just the algorithms and high-frequency traders that took us up. Possible this does not happen to the conference call. It's always good just to mark those levels off and then just watch them as the day goes on. Now this low, you didn't even have a wick on. So I would just watch these two levels and see how we act when we get up to them. Right now, you're really not even breaking down, so it looks like we're waiting for that conference call. Subscribe to the channel, click all notifications. We go over updates and alert daily on the stock market at the end of every day and do a live stream every morning. So here we are on Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has a conference tonight. So you can see in all the headlines today, they're talking about the CHAT GPT effect. Microsoft announced a special AI event. Now, this is being filmed before the event goes live. But like everything else, if we're going to have leaders, we're going to have a new theme, and it's possible that it's going to be this AI theme. I'd watch how we act in here after hours tonight. But by the amount of volume that's coming into this name right now, it's pretty staggering. If you just take a look right across here and just straight across, maybe you've had 3-4 days that are even close to the volume here in the past 12 months. So that's a pretty staggering sign to see. Now, whether or not we hold or whether or not we roll, we're going to have to just watch how that plays itself out. But this level right in here is pretty hard. And we're sitting right there right now. And I think that's pretty important that we're literally sitting right on the level that we want to watch. And that is the post level, right? This 266.64. Then you have some support at 263.86, then 260.40. Might want to remember those and watch them this evening. But it seems to me that we did flip right here and then just continually push higher. And we did that all day long. Now, if you even look after hours, you had some selling into the call as if sell the news, but we really don't even know what the news is going to be yet, let alone sell into it. You can see these two wicks up here. So you just really want to make sure that you actually get through, but you're going to want to watch how it acts on the call itself. For those that cannot listen to the call, you'll be able to see tomorrow morning, obviously, how the stock acts, and you can check it later this evening as well. But I think it should be pretty interesting to see how they're going to combat what Google's doing. And I think that they have a real opportunity here to steal market share. Technically speaking, I think it's worth noting you're resting right under major resistance. You flipped a doji here, and this is where you broke. So I find that pretty interesting. That's where we're sitting. You have this little 1, 2, 3 pattern down with a gap. When it gets super technical, we have a gap here. 1, 2, 3 down, another gap. Looks like you have a little island gap. It's not an island reversal because it's going in the same direction, but that's pretty hard to miss. CRDO is breaking out here. You have this flag, you had Wick City, and now you've got a new closing high. If we look at this on a weekly chart, we can just see the base, and you've been in a base since the day you broke out in February, right? Since you broke out in February, that marked the high, came back down, and we retested that opening bar repeatedly throughout the months, breaking down below it a couple times, but that buyer always seemed to step back in. And now you have this range and you have a base that's been going on for almost a year, and now you're finally breaking out of it. I would not sleep on names like this that have nothing but blue sky above them. On top of this, if you just take a look at the volume going across here, this is the highest buying volume on a weekly basis we've had. It started in 2023 and it's been continuing all year long. Tesla having a very hard time with 200, but if we zoom in on it, we can see that we made another yearly closing high. I think this is really important to note that even though we have this doji and it looks like we're having an issue right here, right? Because we get this bar halfway down, still new closing high. Still new closing high. Guess what? Still new closing high. You almost have a dragonfly here. If you didn't have that little wick right above it, you're off by just a hair to having a dragonfly there. And that's pretty powerful that you have that kind of pattern and your wicks are getting longer on the lower side. So in other words, you have this huge wick here, right? And this becomes a body. So now you have all wick. Wicks are price rejection. Then you have a doji that's in that wick, right? And then you have up, down. And now look, you don't have any more. So your upper level of those wicks are going away. They're not getting longer. I think that's an important distinction. I'd watch this tomorrow and I'd watch that high and see if you can flip it. I find it hard to believe that you're not going to flip this if this persists. Now, today with Powell speaking, we obviously had a lot of volume. We had a lot of people out there trading, but the majority of people were just waiting for bad news again. And so far, we're not getting it between earnings like SWS, which just absolutely crushed and knocked the cover off the ball today. You can see that you surprised to the upside and you surprised on earnings as well, right? So I think it's interesting. Like, it wasn't a blowout, but you did surprise to the upside and you had some pretty positive comments. Now, if you look at something like this, you had a huge move off the bottom from October from that last earnings. Okay, you were at $87. Now you're at $122 and you keep pushing. Now you're flipping higher highs and you're really setting up for this names like this to continue. You start seeing this kind of volume. And it's absolutely staggering to think that names like this aren't going to continue. So you have good earnings coming out across the board. I think we're through 75% of all companies now, and you're having follow through. Powell's comments today were very, in my opinion, they were very bullish. He was very open about the fact that he does not view employment the same exact way as he was before. And those comments are ringing pretty solid. Now, if we take a look at Meta, we have this anchored VWAP, and we should really drill into this so you can see where it's at. So here you are up here, and it's at the peak. And you can see what you're battling now if we zoom in here. And I do pay this much attention to these bars. Now, you see I have this wick in here, and this wick was the same exact level over here. So all we did today was what? Work off all these wicks. And we completely encapsulated this bar. To be super technical, this is a bullish engulfing, right? Sitting right in here. And now you're closing at a new 2023 high. Now, if you just come straight across and look at our line, resistance has become support right in here at that 183 level. That's exactly what you want to see. So you're wedged in here and we're seeing the buying stepping up. Obviously, we're all aware that they're doing a $40 billion buyback. I would not sleep on this if it continues to go. I know the RSI on these charts look completely overbought, and they are in that territory. We're up here at an 84, which is pretty insane, and we're pretty due for some kind of correction. The issue with it, in my opinion, is you can stay up here for a very long period of time. Just because you're overbought doesn't mean you can't stay overbought. You can stay overbought for weeks. Another great example of that is Nvidia. Now here's Nvidia. It looks like you almost have a negative divergence sitting here, but it's not done yet, and now you're flipping. This AI conversation is going to really envelop Nvidia and what they do because of their specialty chips. Now, I think it's really important. Again, here you have this little pendant, and then we're breaking out of that pendant. A test of this 227.56 just looks inevitable. Now, I just want to point out what is working. What is working is buying at support levels. Now, one of our key support levels was right in here. It was roughly around 75, 212.75, and we kept battling it all day long. And then eventually we flipped it, pushed, came back, retested, and then it finally ripped. Buying these rips is not working. You're not in a runaway bull market. What we did was trade this a couple times today in the Alpha Chasers community. But what we were really looking for to add was after Powell spoke and everybody sold down was to see, are you going to hold support? And the bottom line was we did. We held right in here and presented a really nice buying opportunity. And if you go and take a look at your charts right now, you'll notice that support and resistance are holding. So at the same time that this is down here, Microsoft was down here with the failed H pattern. We bought right into this as soon as it flipped and went from there because your risk was so low here. You had such a low barrier of entry. You're basically risking $1. You can see the retest right here, and then it just flips. No reason to get out or do do anything except stay with the trade, and then just continues to grind higher. Buying into resistance points is not going to work in this market. Here's a great example of Tesla over the past 2, even 3 days. Every single time we got to this 190, presented a nice buying opportunity every single time. If you start looking at your support and resistance lines, you'll do much better. The best trades that we had today in the Alpha Chasers community, link in description and up here if you're interested in being added to the wait list. And I will have members that are on that wait list. They will get invitations this week. And then I'm going to have to close the room for a period of time. But you can see, or close enrollment rather. But you can see in here how you're holding these levels. And as you hold these levels, if you know where your true supports are, that's all that's really mattering. Waiting for these to re-break VWAP or re-break our EMA strategy, we're losing too much edge on those kinds of trades. So if you take anything from this and you're a trader, just listen to what I'm saying. Get real specific with your support and resistance lines, and you just have very tight stops on them. They're either going to work, even if it gets you out and you get back in, who cares? But you really are going to want to focus on your support and your resistance lines. Make sure you're selling into your resistance lines and make sure you're buying into your support lines. And I just really want to point this out. These patterns that we're going over here, you'll start recognizing them everywhere. So right here, we had a double inside bar inside this doji. As soon as we got over that, presented a buying opportunity. Buy, scale out on the way up, and that was pretty much it. It was a scalp trade. We didn't kill it on it, but we still pulled out probably 50, 60 cents out of it, which is fine, and then on to the next one. But if you learn to identify these patterns, they'll present optimal entry opportunities. You want to be buying when the entry is optimal, not when it starts running away from you. Now, in regards to the index, you can see that we are overbought here on the RSI. Zoom out of this for a moment. But what we did was come right down to this level. And you can draw that level a little bit better now, right? Let's get to the top of this so you can just kind of see. Tried to get through, couldn't. Tried to close over, no follow through. Now look at this bar. It's a pretty solid bar that you have there. The RSI is higher. I see that the 55 is here. To not confuse everybody, I'm going to put the 55 in white and the black is going to be the 200. Now, this is a pretty serious close and I like it. Now, if we can get another higher high above this level, in my opinion, and the way that I view the world is that's going to become support. And yes, we are overbought and yes, we are due for a correction, but it is not happening. Here's the dollar. Look at exactly what's going on here. You got right to our level and you held. Very little to say here with the dollar. You got right to our level and held. Make sure you comment on this video and what we're going over. I read every single comment and they are extremely helpful in creating content. So I'm spending some time on the macro and some of the trades that we did in the Alpha Chasers community because of your comments. So also please comment on what's the #1 stock you're watching tomorrow. There are 8,000 names out there. I can't possibly watch them all. And there are some great ideas that you guys present. So please keep them coming in the comments. And then I can even, if I get them, I can cover them tomorrow morning live and actually prepare for them ahead of time if they're in the comments. But you see these lines right here and see these levels? I mean, this is a 3-soldier candlestick pattern right in here. Now I have a doji. Maybe that's it. Maybe this one's going to negate or it's going to form a flag before going higher. We really just don't know and we can't rule this out. Let's see what Microsoft has to say and we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great evening.